Okay, we're going to do a reading from Big Panda and Tiny Dragon by James Norbury. I got this book, I don't even know how I found it, to be perfectly honest. It was on Amazon, but I don't know how I find things on there, because I do have a large collection of children's books. But a lot of them, I'm trying to think of, let me look at some of them I have. We have The Giver, which I read as a kid, so Goosebumps, which I read as a kid, Peter Pan, which everyone knows, right? Shel Silverstein, which I read as a kid, The Jungle Book, which I saw the movie of, James and the Giant Peach. I think I saw the movie of that, but I don't remember it. So I rebought the movie. But anyways, The Real Mother Goose, which I had a childhood version of that book, and my mom got rid of it, so I got a new one. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which I saw a movie trailer for, and it's adorable. Oh, The Places You Will Go, which I have a lot more than that, but I don't know how I came across Big Panda and Tiny Dragon. But the author got a book from a secondhand store on Buddhism. He discusses that in the afterword. I'm not reading the afterword or acknowledgments. He does the artwork, which is I think these are sketches. They look like sketches to me. But the rest looks like watercolors to me, which are all very beautiful. This book is dedicated to everyone who gets lost. Spring, we open with. So we got the cherry blossoms. I was trying to find a way to do this. I was thinking, take pictures and then narrate it. And I'm like, no. I started to do that project, and that's way too much work. Be brave. You never know what a first meeting might lead to. Tiny Dragon. Big Panda. A new day and a new beginning, said Tiny Dragon. What shall we do with it? Said Big Panda. There they are. Which is more important? Asked Big Panda. The journey or the destination? The company, said Tiny Dragon. And some of this looks so beautiful. It looks like the actual letters of Chinese language and stuff are beautiful in some way, right? They're not so annoying as whatever script we use. I'm too busy to see the flowers right now, said Tiny Dragon. All the more reason to look at them, and they might not be here tomorrow. I'm not going to show you every drawing or watercolor, but isn't nature incredible? It is. But we are just as much a part of nature as this tree or the spider, and just as amazing. People forget that, I think. Big Panda, said Tiny Dragon. I like the way you listen to me and talk to me and travel with me, but most of all, I like the way you make me feel. Try to make time for the small things. They're often the most important, said Big Panda. The most important thing, said Big Panda, is to pay attention. Smacks his ass. Says, just because you don't know where you are going, it doesn't mean you are lost, said Tiny Dragon. Very true, but in this case we are definitely lost. That tree has been through some rough times, said Tiny Dragon. Yes, but it's still here and has gained strength and beauty. Oh, I like this drawing. Or watercolor. Hurry, squeaked Tiny Dragon. There's so much to do. The river doesn't hurry, said Big Panda. Yet despite many obstacles, it always gets where it's going. You know what that's called? Wu Wei. It's a Taoist concept where you don't force things, but you let them happen. You let nature take its course, because like water, it will take a powerful course without any effort. It doesn't try and go uphill. They planted some seeds here. Nothing is happening, said Tiny Dragon. Maybe, said Big Panda, it's happening underneath first. The sign, I think, is a sign from Shinto. Although, there's a Zen book. Do I have it here? Called The Gateless Gate. I feel like someone used that symbol on a YouTube video of it. It's a book of koans, which are like riddles in some way. Sometimes I think I'm not good enough, said Tiny Dragon. A cherry tree doesn't compare itself to other trees, said Big Panda. It just blossoms. Uses for a leaf, number 1, a boat. Cute. Sometimes you just have to be silly. Each decision you make on your journey takes you further or closer from where you want to go. Mistakes mean you're trying, said Big Panda. Don't give up. And there's this picture of them playing the instrument. I like this quote. I want to change the world, said Tiny Dragon. Start with the next person who needs your help, replied Big Panda. I always talk about how everything's a ripple effect. So you're like sort of like a gear in a machine, and everyone's touching. And like here's you, and here's your coworker, and when you move, they move, and when they move, everyone they touch moves just a little because that gear shifts, and then everyone they touch shifts, and that's how things get from you to the president, even if you don't talk to the president directly. The map doesn't show where I'm supposed to go, said Tiny Dragon. Your journey isn't shown on any map, said Big Panda. You must discover your own path. I was told that by an author that I looked up towards along my weird path of discovering spirituality. I miss him already, said Tiny Dragon. What if he gets hurt? They released this little bird. You helped him when he needed it most, said Big Panda. And what if he goes on to live a long and happy life? The path ahead looks difficult, said Big Panda. No matter how hard it gets, said Tiny Dragon, we'll face it together. I wish this moment could last forever, said Tiny Dragon. This moment is all there is, said Big Panda. We're on to summer. Pandas are so cute. Time doing nothing is never wasted. There's a myth of productivity. I think it's ingrained in us so much that we worry about things. Always having to do something. So like zoning out is seen as something bad. I wish I had met you earlier, said Tiny Dragon, so we could have gone on even more adventures together. That's a beautiful color scheme. What is my purpose? Asked Tiny Dragon. Big Panda paused and then said, just sit on that stone and be with your friend. My head feels like this storm sometimes, said Tiny Dragon. If you really listen, said Big Panda, you can hear the raindrops splashing on the stones. It's impossible to find a little peace, even in a storm. An elder dragon is a tiny dragon who never gave up. And there's Grandpa Dragon. We have a long way to go, said Big Panda. Tiny Dragon grinned. Grandpa Dragon used to say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a cup of tea. You're a good listener, said Tiny Dragon. Listening has never landed me in trouble, replied Big Panda. I can't find the right place for this last branch, huffed Tiny Dragon. Big Panda chewed his bamboo thoughtfully. It's the imperfections that make it perfect. I think it's this one. Although that one's beautiful too. That's a concept called wabi-sabi, perfect imperfections. Guy broke a bowl, I think is the story, and instead of, using just ugly gray stuff to go along the cracks to fix the bowl, he had it gold enameling and viewed all the imperfections as part of what makes it perfect. The best thing to have with tea, said Big Panda, is a good friend. I'm worried, said Tiny Dragon. I don't know what to do next. For just a moment, said Big Panda. Stop, breathe, and listen to the wind in the bamboo. Breathing exercises are actually incredibly important, I think, to mental well-being, but we never think about them. They're like a tool. So if you breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, and you repeat that for a couple minutes, what happens is you focus on your breath and everything else flies by. You'll still have thoughts, and it's okay to acknowledge the thoughts, but let them pass. Let them pass. Don't latch onto them. Keep coming back to the breath. And that's what's known as mindful breathing. What are you doing? Asked Tiny Dragon. I have no idea, said Big Panda, but it's great fun. If you seek happiness for others, you may find it for yourself. Said Tiny Dragon, these might be the good old days that we'll look back on with great longing. In that case, said Big Panda, let's never stop making memories. Love needs no explanation. Together, we can do anything. Some people are like candles. They burn themselves out to create light for others. Whoops. I like that a lot. Use for a leaf number 17. A parasol and dinner. He's gone through a lot of uses for leaves that we don't know about. That's cute. Hurry up, Big Panda, we're going to be late. Big Panda sat down. I like to think I'm creating anticipation. This garden is beautiful, said Tiny Dragon. Big Panda nodded. And we only found it because we went the wrong way so many times. I try to think of life like as if there's a divine order. And I think there is. From what I've experienced. My experience. That's my experience, not yours. You don't have to believe me. But the way I see it, everything is the exact moment you're supposed to be. Sometimes it's easy to see it when it clicks, and I call it a synchronicity. That's a term Carl Jung used for meaningful coincidences. But I think that every wrong turn is actually a right turn. You just have to see it in hindsight to see. And sometimes you'll never see it, but it just depends. Not everyone has the opportunity to look at their life in a certain way, from like a helicopter point of view. And that's why therapy and stuff is so useful. I think everyone should see a therapist. But at the same time, like I always say that if everyone who needed to see a therapist, who had an issue that qualified for a therapist, saw a therapist, we'd have run out of therapists. Which is why we need a whole overhaul of a slow but gradual leaning towards better mental health. And I think like things like this are a part of it. We need to relearn how to do some things. You don't do much, said Tiny Dragon. I'm full of potential, said Big Panda with a yawn. Autumn. There's a great watercolor. You can really see the textures if you get up close of the paper. I don't know if you can see them, but autumn is here, said Big Panda, and soon winter will be upon us. Ooh, said Tiny Dragon, more cozy evenings together with tea. Uses for a leaf, number 62, an umbrella. We're lost again, said Big Panda. When I'm lost, said Tiny Dragon, I find it helps to go back to the beginning and try to remember why I started. What if I meet people who don't like me or the things I do? Asked Tiny Dragon. You must walk your own path, said Big Panda. Better to lose them than lose yourself. It's a fiery, beautiful picture. And then little dragon gets a flower. But the petals all fall off. My flower, said Tiny Dragon. All things must come to pass, little one. That's what makes them so precious. It's hard being kind to everyone, said Tiny Dragon. True, said Big Panda, and hardest of all to be kind to ourselves, but we must try. Let go or be dragged. Impermanence. It's a big concept in Buddhism. It's transience of things. When drinking tea, drink tea. It's mindfulness in a nutshell. Oh, that's a beautiful one too. You do one thing at a time. Multitasking is not an advantage. It's a detriment. What are you thinking about? Asked Tiny Dragon. Nothing, said Big Panda. It's wonderful. I can't find my way out of this hole, said Tiny Dragon. Big Panda smiled. I will come and sit in it with you. I think that's important for mental health. Sometimes when people say they're depressed or anxious or whatever, you feel this need to somehow fix their situation. But sometimes you need to just sit with them in their situation as a companion. To allow them to feel what they're feeling, validate it, and just coexist. The leaves are dying, said Tiny Dragon. Don't be sad, said Big Panda. Autumn is nature's way of showing us how beautiful letting go can be. Look what I found, said Tiny Dragon. Oh, said Big Panda, an opportunity to try something new. You're quiet today, said Tiny Dragon. Big Panda smiled. I don't think I can improve on the sound of the rain. They're in a little wheelbarrow kind of thing. I'm not sure this is working. Why is that tree still standing? Said Tiny Dragon. During better times, said Big Panda, it grew deep roots. Now it can weather any storm. It's a shame we didn't plant this tree a long time ago, said Tiny Dragon. Imagine how big it would be. We're doing it now, said Big Panda. That's the important thing. Can you hear the wind in the trees, Tiny Dragon? That's nature's way of telling us to take a moment to stop, breathe, and just be. Are you ever mean to yourself, Big Panda? Big Panda watched the ripples spread across the lake. I see how gentle you are, Tiny Dragon, and try to treat myself with the same kindness. There have been so many difficulties along this path, said Tiny Dragon. There have, agreed Big Panda, but we have learned something from each one, and imagine how good the view will be when we reach the top. Whether people praise you or criticize you, Tiny Dragon, try to wrong voice. Whether people praise you or criticize you, Tiny Dragon, try to accept it gracefully. It takes all kinds of conditions to create a strong tree. Listening to someone is one of the greatest things you can do for them. When you light a lantern for someone else, you cannot help but light up your own path. I think of that when I think of how I peer support people. That by helping others, it always helps me. If you don't try, said Big Panda, you'll never know if you can fly. I'm tired, sighed Tiny Dragon. Then it's time to stop, said Big Panda. Watch the stars and have a cup of hot tea. What are you celebrating? Asked Tiny Dragon. Getting rained on with you, said Big Panda. It's a very small candle, said Tiny Dragon. However small the light, it's better than darkness. I want to open a scary pumpkin stand, said Tiny Dragon, but I'm afraid I'll fail. Big Panda poured his friend some more tea. You might fail, little one, but if you let fear stop you from even trying, failure is assured. Sometimes all you can do is make someone a cup of tea. It might be enough. There are days when just getting up is a victory. What is the universe? Asked Tiny Dragon. Big Panda looked up at the sky. We are, little one. We are depthless oceans and summer lightning. There is nothing more magnificent. Winter. You've been carrying me for so many days now, said Tiny Dragon. Could be worse, said Big Panda. We could be Big Dragon and Tiny Panda. That's cute. Each season is completely different, yet each has its wonders. Just like us, said Tiny Dragon with a grin. Sometimes it's good to head out with no idea where you're going. How do you keep going? Asked Tiny Dragon. Sometimes, said Big Panda, even the smallest step is better than no step. It's the shortest day, said Tiny Dragon. Winter is truly upon us. But also the longest night, said Big Panda, and that comes with its own wonders. I give up, said Tiny Dragon. That's okay, said Big Panda. We'll try again tomorrow. It's cold and dark tonight, said Tiny Dragon. Don't worry, little one. The sun will rise again. If you're struggling, little one, you can tell me, said Big Panda. I want to help. Do bad thoughts make a bad person? Asked Tiny Dragon. No, said Big Panda. The waves are not the ocean. The thoughts are not the mind. I have to take a picture of this for someone. Now, should I send it to him? I have a person who deals with obsessive compulsive disorder that I counsel, and I think they will be helped by this statement. If it ever lets me crop, rotate. Let me just send this to them quick. I'm so tired, said Tiny Dragon. Big Panda paused. Winter is a time when nature withdraws, rests, and gathers its energy for a new beginning. We are allowed to do the same, my little friend. I often find myself retreating in winter. Seasonal affective disorder, they call it. But it's just... it's a time where I slow down. Because the days are shorter and the nights are longer, and it's just my body doesn't want to do what it normally wants to do. I give myself a break, though. I don't beat myself up over it too much. Or do I? I forget to make my New Year's resolution, sighed Tiny Dragon. Don't worry, little one. If there's something you want to change, you can start right now. What would your 3 wishes be? Asked Tiny Dragon. Big Panda pondered a moment. Us together? Traveling. In the rain. All their wishes came true. There's beauty everywhere, said Big Panda, but sometimes it's difficult to see. That's what I think of the divine order. I think sometimes we see misery and suffering, and it's hard to see the beauty because we get stuck in a certain mindset. Use this for a leaf number 111, a sled. I can't explain how I feel, said Tiny Dragon. That's okay. Words are not adequate for all things. Big Panda smiled. It's very true. Is that... Which book am I thinking of? Maybe multiple. By Alan Watts. Dial the Watercourse Way, or the book on the taboo against knowing who you are. They discuss how words are a measurement of all the smaller little teeny parts of life, but they're never the real thing. They never match up to the real thing. It's why you need a lot of words to really properly describe something. So when we use words, we've got to remind ourselves they're not a replacement for the real thing. And that some things are beyond all of it. And those are some of the most important things. That's like words like the Tao. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Particular things. But what is the big thing? Can we name it? Because we are not outside it. That's the concept of the Tao. If it's something that is everything, everywhere, all-encompassing, you can't describe it. It's unlimited. Words are not adequate. That's the divine. You give me strength when all mine has gone. Oh. Panda's holding him. Spring. Butterflies struggle most just before they emerge. Do you believe in reincarnation? Asked Tiny Dragon. Big Panda yawned. Believe that every minute of every day we can let go and start again. Even a damaged tree can produce the most beautiful blossoms. Are we nearly there yet? Asked Tiny Dragon. Big Panda smiled. I hope not. Anyways, I've been wanting to do a reading of that for a while now. I didn't know how I would do it, but this worked. I should go have a cup of tea.